Hi everyone, so let's get started with today's session. And today's session, as we are starting the entire series, we are going to start with a very important topic, that is what are the upcoming changes in the exam from 15th of April 2024. Exam is going to change, right? A lot is changing. At least those who are preparing and very keen to pass the CISSP exam, yes, for them things are changing a little bit, and you should be aware before you go for the exam, right? If I have to summarize on the exam part, okay, what are the exam changes coming? So currently it is 4 hours. After 15th of April it's going to be 3 hours exam, but the number of questions which are coming, currently we are facing 125 to 175 questions. After 15th of April it's going to be 100 to 150 questions. This will also include the research based questions, that is they are not scored for, you don't answer that for scoring, but they are part of the entire CISSP exam to make it more random for a particular user. So that is where they call it not even questions, they call it as items. Why they call it as item? Because there is a computer adaptive test. For them everything is an item, so the algorithm in the back end keep trying understanding if you have that proficiency or not. So the algorithm is gauging you all the time, and based on that your next question will come based on what you answer for this question. So that's how it is. Thankfully there is no changes when it comes to the fees, right? $749 for a single attempt, and right now they are also going with a very wonderful scheme which is called as peace of mind. So you just pay $199 extra, and then you can avail a very next chance also, so that you go to the exam with a peace of mind that you are not going to be financially impacted so much. If you fail, then you have another chance to counter it. The second kind of change is on the domain weightage. As you can see, not much change. There is a little bit more emphasis on security and risk management, which is domain number 1. From 15% it has gone to 16%. Software development, it has little been decreased from the earlier 11% to 10% now, and it's a clear indication you cannot take any domain lightly. Also, I must inform you, they also check your individual domain proficiency as well. For example, you are passing 7 domains, but in one particular domain you are below proficiency. That's going to impact you as a candidate, right? That is going to impact your results. So we cannot afford to lose any of the domain or keep casually any of the domain. That is something which we must understand. The next one is course curriculum changes, right? So this is where you will see if you are somebody who is very interested and you are going for the exam and all, you must know all this. In the entire CISSP syllabus, they have added one objective. There is only one objective which they have added. They call it as new, but actually it's not new, and I will tell you why during this explanation, right? However, this is how the entire CISSP is structured, right? In CISSP, on the top level there is a domain. Under that domain there are objectives, and under that objectives there are sub-objectives. Now these sub-objectives, in a very plain language, you can also call it as these are topics, right? So there has been completely 31 sub-objectives or topics which has been added. Only one objective is changing, okay? The another kind of change which has come is rephrasing. That means there are total 6 objectives where the language has been rephrased. And guys, some of you might be thinking, why at all this rephrase matter us so much? We have to just go through these concepts and all. Actually not. To pass CISSP exam, having the right mindset is the most important. And this particular mindset is coming from where? The coming is even coming if the objective says understand and apply. That means you have to understand the concept, and you also need to identify the different ways in which I am going to apply this particular concept at work. So the verbiage is one of the most important part in the CISSP, and oftentimes it is the most ignored as well. We are just lost in complexity. Actually speaking, if you want to prepare for CISSP, I know many of you are already preparing for CISSP. You know what? Just go and read these objectives of these particular domain or subdomains. This will give you a lot of clarity. Okay, under this particular domain or under this subdomain, what things I need to understand. So this will define a kind of scope, at least a a little bit of blurry scope, because always there is not a clear scope in the entire CISSP exam. It's not an academic exam where they will go and define, okay, all these topics must be clear. They just give you some example, okay, in this particular topic, example, these kind of topics should be covered. So this particular boundary for scope is always blurry. Somehow that is how it is, and we have to all live with it, right? So that is one. Total 6 objectives. We have the verbiage change, and there are 64 of them as the subtopics or sub objectives where we have the language change, and this is a huge one, right? You need to be careful about it. At the same time, there are certain objectives or sub objectives which has been removed. You can see some of them in objectives. None of the objective has been removed, but there are total 20 topics which has been removed, and this is where I want you to wait. Just do not stop reading that particular topic, because some topic out of this entire thing, for example, Kerberos is very important topic, right? But we don't see in the new this thing, we don't see in the new syllabus. So I will still recommend, being teaching almost nearly a decade, it's my experience, you should still go through those topics, because you might have already gone through that by now, or it is already in the curriculum. Okay, so that's very important. Let's dive into domain number 1. So this entire table summarize some of the changes, right? Objective number 1.3, if you note, they have added a new word called as sustain. Why this? Because earlier we used to see this entire thing that you are going to join a particular company as a CISO and you are going to implement the entire governance, but that's always not the case. Sometimes you are also going to a company where already governance is existing and you have to just keep running the same bus, and that is where also you need to be aware of the principles. So that is why they have added this small change, sustain. Now in 1.3.4, this is where in example they have clearly mentioned that these particular frameworks should be known to you, which include COBIT, SAPSA, PCI DSS, FedRAMP. And I see many of the training providers, they often ignore this. For example, they ignore SAPSA, right? So I recommend, if not in depth, at least you should understand what SAPSA is. When it comes to framework, do not try to get into too much into the framework. It's not a framework exam, right? As a security guy, you should know which framework is for what, where it is applied, in which particular industry it is applied, in which particular country it is applied. If you know these 4 things, I think good enough for you. Then objective number 1.4 and 1.5, which is current, it has been merged into one single objective, which is 1.4. So they have kept the language for the sub objective 1.5 as it is, but the another one where it was 1.4, we were talking about privacy, they have brought in privacy also under the 1.4 itself. Earlier it was there in 1.5, right? Currently it is under 1.5. So they are collating all the different considerations which as a CISO you should be concerned about, and they have included a privacy in that. So that's one major change. In 1.7, there is a small change. They say whenever you are preparing for BCP, we used to know, right, how you are going to make your plan, how you are going to analyze the BIA, all those kind of activities, how you are going to prioritize which business function need to be brought under BCP, all that kind of stuff, right? Now they have said assess also. So you also have to play important role as a security guy to see how effective is my entire BCP plan. So I think that is one new addition which you need to think from that perspective. 1.7.2 is external dependency in BCP. It's a completely new topic they have added. Actually, we were already covering it in our syllabus previously as well, but now there is a new this thing they have specifically specified, because there is no company which is self-sufficient, and many times we have to depend on vendors and all. So that is where this particular topic. 1.8.2, it says employment agreement and policy driven requirement. So all the requirement and the agreement you are going to sign when you hire a particular employee, it has to be policy driven. Whatever policy you have agreed upon, you have to go and base all of that based on your policy. It should not be completely discontinued with your policy, right? So that's the objective. 1.9.2, in risk analysis, they have also added specifically scope, which is very important. Earlier it was not getting covered, and earlier also they used to say risk analysis and risk assessment as a slash. If you see the objective, they say risk assessment / risk analysis. So that was only one step. Now you have to see this thing as a 2 different step in your whenever you read risk assessment and risk management. So that is one. Then continuous risk measuring, monitoring and measurement. That is also another thing. We were also talking about monitoring, but this monitoring should not be periodic. There has to be certain activities which are continuous. For example, vulnerability assessment, it's a continuous activity, right? Risk assessment, it's a continuous activity. You keep on doing for your infra, for your applications, for your third party and so on, right? So that is an important change which is there. 1.9.7, sorry, I have a little bit of cough. Sorry about that. Reporting part, risk reporting. So sometimes you have to also report risk outside your company as well. So that is also being covered. They have specifically mentioned this. Earlier this was not. Risk framework, you have to see at NIST, COBIT, SAPSA, PCI. I recommend especially NIST risk management framework. Those particular 6 steps, 7 steps, including prepare and categorize, all of that, have a view on that. That's very, very important. Then 11.1 is risk associated with acquisition of products and services from, that means whenever you purchase a particular product from a particular vendor, you have to go and do some architecture review, risk assessment, all of that, right? So whenever you purchase a particular product, you have to see it from a tempering perspective. They can counterfeit as well. They can put in some code which can kind of implant in the particular code. So you have to see it from that perspective as well. So this is a change here. And then periodic content review to include in your security awareness. You have to make sure that all emerging technologies and trends and the latest trend landscape, your entire security awareness training is based on that, including artificial intelligence and blockchain. That is something which they have asked it right in the new changes. So there is a lot when it comes to domain 1, but actually overall, if you ask me, these changes should not bother you and they should not derail you from your current whatever you are preparing. I am just telling from a perspective way what is the main difference in the upcoming changes. Otherwise, whatever you are already going through is already 95 to 98%. It is all good. There is only slight 5% changes which you should be aware with. Let's dive into domain number 2 and see what are the changes. Thankfully, there is no changes in domain number 2, so you don't need to worry at all. You don't need to worry at all. That's a wonderful thing to know. That's good, right? Now let's dive into domain number 3 with some happy mood, but that is where you will find some changes. Okay, so let's go to 3.1.7, and in the first objective 3.1 itself, we go and see some almost 13 different architecture principles. So there has been a little change which says keep it simple, that is one of the principle, and they say or and small. That means whenever you are going and designing a particular system, try to make a prototype first. That is the focus here. Then little bit more focus between zero trust or trust but verify. In certain conditions, where the data is sensitive, you want to go with higher level of security, go with zero trust. If there is some area where security is not that such a big priority, is kind of normal, that is where you can go with trust but verify. So you should be able to be a judgmental part, to understand where I need to implement zero trust and where not, because zero trust is a costly affair. It's good, definitely the way we want to go, but it's costly as well. So you need to make a keen adjustment here. Then 3.1.11 is a completely new topic which has been added up, which says Secure Access Service Edge. So SASE we call it, right? So this is where all of so many edge services coming up, where your network and your authentication is tied up with cloud based services, and you get some experience as if my organization is just sitting on the edge, very nearby to me. So this is a new topic you have to cover. 3.5.5 was talking about industrial control system. Now they have added operational technology as well. And just to differentiate, operational technology is more hardware based technology which you use. So there is a lot of hardware also we are using in the industrial control system, that you should be aware with, just from the concept perspective. A small language can change the entire perspective. So now you have to understand what are those different operational technologies as well in the entire ICS. Okay. Then 3.6.3, they have added quantum key distribution as well, as the quantum key cryptography is now no more a concept, it is a reality now. That is why that is one of the topic which has been added. So try to understand a little bit about the quantum key distribution as well as a topic. That's all, not much change. Key management practices also have rotation. I think there is nothing more super science in this. In the entire key management life cycle, we were already discussing about rotation. So that is not something which should be bothering you out there, right? So these are some changes. Then 3.9.7, environmental issues, natural disaster, man-made. So whenever you are talking about physical security, you should also be aware with the environmental issues as well, which may be a natural disaster or maybe man-made disaster. So you should be thinking from that perspective as well. At least one topic got added for you. And then 3.10, it's a completely new objective they have added to domain 3. This is called as manage the information security life cycle. There are different stages, right? Actually speaking, this looks like to be a new, but we were already covering it. Whenever we were starting with domain 8, the number one topic was how do we differentiate between system life cycle and software life cycle. It's only more of reordering they have picked up from domain number 8 and they have put it in domain number 3. So that is something which should not be bothering you, but at least go through once. Are you aware with all these different 10 sub objectives under that? Okay, how do you integrate security in this entire stuff? I hope you enjoyed this. Now comes domain 4. And guys, domain 4 is always a challenge for most of the CISSP aspirants, right? So let's understand what is changing in domain 4. And believe me guys, the maximum, or you can say the most impacted domain for these kind of changes is domain 4 only. So you have to be little careful when you are going with domain number 4. Let's go with domain number 4. Domain number 4, objective number 4.4, and this is where we were trying to apply secure design principles in network architecture, right? Earlier this language was assess and implement. Now this is more on the implementation part. So that's one of the critical change which has come. Think how you are going to implement all these kind of principles while you are designing a particular system. It can be an enterprise system, it can be a technology based system as well, it can be a process as well. So that doesn't matter, but you have to go and apply these principles all the time. 4.1.2, little bit of focus between IP version 4, IP version 6, nothing new, it was already there. One of the change is Anycast. So there is more focus on Anycast because CDN closely support Anycast. So that is one of the focus area which you should be specifically aware with. Then 4.1.5 is converged protocol, where ISC, VoIP, we were already talking about this, it's not something new. But what is new is InfiniBand over Ethernet and Compute Express Link. It's a kind of hardware device which comes in, and all that hardware memory management is kind of taken care through the Ethernet protocol. We can get through that in a separate stuff, because otherwise the entire focus will get deviated. 4.1.6, 4.1.7, 1.8, 1.9 is all new as per this particular thing. However, we were already covering these topics in some or the other way. The major change, as you can see in 4.1.6, is cut through, store and forward. So what happens is, when a packet comes to a particular Ethernet switch or maybe a particular router, what it does is, one approach is cut through, means the moment I got the packet, I will not wait for the entire packet to come, I will just take it and pass it on to the next node. That is cut through. The another one is stored and forward. Let every packet come, I will take this entirely, I will check the integrity of it, I will check how redundant it is, like everything is all intact, and then I will forward to the next node. That is something called as store and forward. So these two topics you should be clear. We are already covering that as part of our training. Performance metrics, you should be able to understand difference between bandwidth, jitter, all of this. I think we are already covering it, but now this has been added as a separate thing itself. Okay. Good. 4.1.8 is traffic flow. Now this is completely a new topic, and simple as that. North south means any traffic coming from internet to your data center, or from your data center going to internet, that's your north south. And any traffic which is internal to you or between data center, that is something more about traffic flows, right? I hope that makes sense, right? 4.1.9 also talks about segmentation. Now the entire segmentation they have divided into two parts. One is physical segmentation, one is logical segmentation. And physical segmentation can be when you have a particular project, they are already using the same DHCP server, DNS server, time syncing, everything, but then you create VLAN to keep it isolated. Nothing new, right? We all do that all the time. Out of band is where the particular project is using their own services. Within a closed premise, there is a completely isolated project. That is what is there, but it is still connected physically with the main network. Air gap is completely isolated. This is a kind of network which is completely isolated from the external LAN or internet completely. So that's a new topic which has come up. There's some minor changes in objective number 4.3 as well, where they have spoken about backhaul network. So what is backhaul network? The communication between tower to tower. Now you might be thinking, I am part of enterprise, why should be I worried with you? But while anytime when you are hiring a particular ISP, you should also talk about how secure are they, how their backhaul network is secured, all of those kind of questions. So that is why that's a new topic which has come. And one minor change also I see in the collaboration platform as well. So earlier it was data communication, that was the topic they used. Now they specifically have mentioned about the collaboration platform. So all Zoom, Teams, whatever you use in your company, right, you need to secure that particular infra. So that is what the objective is. 4.3, a little bit of change there as well. Curriculum change in domain number 5, right? We have gone through a much heavy part. Now it's little easy from here. In domain 5, 5.1.6, it says physical control and logical access to services. So in the first 5.1 objective is you should understand logical control, physical controls. Now under that they talk about when we say assets, it's not only physical asset or software asset, there are some services as well which you need to take care. So minor change in 5.1. 5.2.1, they specifically talk about groups and roles. So as part of your RBAC implementation, it has to be, you have to form groups which are based on role. These roles can be based on your job description. It can also be based on your department, on the kind of role you are kind of taking care, kind of activities you are kind of taking care. So there is a lot of analysis need to happen before you go and implement RBAC. That is what is covered under group and roles. 5.2.2, there is a new topic they have added called as passwordless authentication, and the FIDO 2.0 is gaining speed thanks to IBM for that, right? So in the time to come, there might be, you don't need to go and enter passwords at all, especially for devices where you have mobile phones and all, because it natively support mobile phone. So that is where we will see passwordless authentication. So very good topic which they have added here. It was very much required. 5.4.7, access policy enforcement, policy decision point, policy enforcement point. That means how you are going to implement policies when you are going to implement say access control system. What is that we mean by policy decision point, policy enforcement point, all of that. So these are also new topic which has come up, completely new. 5.5.4, privilege escalation. This was already there. We were already covering privilege escalation, but now you have to see it from a sudo perspective and auditing perspective as well. In Linux we use sudo command, right? So that sudo command has to be controlled with, otherwise this can very easily be used. If it is misconfigured, it is not managed well, very easily it can be used for escalating the privileges. 5.5.5 talks about service account management. That means whenever you are having user accounts, device accounts, application account, there are service account as well, and there is a specific discussion required with service account because they have to be non-interactive and things like it, right? You have to keep it limited to the least privilege, limiting it to the job function for which it is, right? So those kind of topics are new for domain number 5. At the same time, guys, there are some topics which has been reduced out of it. 5.6.1, Open ID Connect. Now I am really surprised if you ask me how come these so important topic can be removed from the syllabus. I am little susceptible about this, right? And that is where I will give you my advice. Do not miss them. Go through that as well, because you never know. As I told you, right, the particular syllabus, the boundary is very blurry in CISSP. So be mindful of that and don't take a chance. Still you should go through these. These are very important topic and they should be understood by a security professional, right? Let's go with domain 6, right? Thankfully in domain 6 not much changes. So 6.1.4 is they have added location, on-prem, cloud or hybrid. That means as and when you are deciding your you are establishing your you can say assurance function, you are deciding on audits, strategy, all of that kind of thing. When you are making, you should also be including the cloud based asset, the strategy for your cloud based asset. That's the entire focus. And when you go to cloud, it can be on-prem, it can be cloud, it can be hybrid approach, whatever you are taking, you have to include all those touch points also in your auditing and assessment and testing strategy. That's number one. When they say pen testing, they have explained it a little bit further or expanded it. They included red team, purple team, also simulations to perform the pen testing on an automated basis, also big bounty as well. So you should know a little bit about these topics as well when you go for your exam. Then 6.2.4 synthetic transaction benchmark. So they have added a word called as benchmark here, right? So synthetic transactions are the transactions which are script based and you run it on a particular website to see how my website is behaving entirely, right? So based on that, you can decide if my application is good enough to meet my SLA, is there a user experience problem, all of that. So this entire scripting, whatever you are preparing, should be based on a backend benchmark. That particular benchmark you can obtain from OWASP, you can obtain from different sources like CIS benchmark and all of that. That is what the emphasis is here. 6.5.4, they say security audits. So when we say security audit, you must also include any kind of data center infrastructure and things like it, which is on-prem, on cloud, or even if you are going with a hybrid approach. And this is where, we already talk about SOC reports, all of that. Let's get into security operations, domain number 7, and let's see what is new here. Okay, so in domain number 7, the major thing is what I observed earlier. They were only talking about SIM. Now they are specifically talking about SOAR. So you as a security guy should be knowing the difference between SIM and SOAR. SOAR also has the response capabilities as well. A lot of automation and cloud syncing and AI/ML, behavior analysis. Those kind of things are new feature in SOAR. So you should be aware with that. Then they say continuous monitoring, and there is nothing new. It was already there, but now they have added a new term which is called as tuning. That means, let's say you have established a new SIM device and you are getting a lot of false positive. It is your responsibility to make sure that false positive are analyzed, and then over a period of time you are going to follow a maturity curve. That is very important, right? So that is what they mean to say by continuous monitoring and tuning. 7.5.3, now it's a redundant topic. They have added as a new topic here. I don't know if there is really a relevance, but from an operation perspective, you need to understand the controls which are there at data at rest, data in transit. I don't think for you it should be a big challenge. Already in domain 2 we are covering all this, right? So it should not be a big challenge. 7.10.1, backup strategies. They have specifically mentioned cloud storage, on-site and off-site. So earlier on-site, off-site was there, but they haven't mentioned cloud storage. So now cloud storage has come part of it, because many companies, they prefer to have their DR infrastructure on the cloud, or maybe at least a backup on the cloud, because that may be cost effective, all of that. But make sure things like encryption and those kind of controls are kind of taken care of. You are bringing your own key if their data is sensitive. If you need to meet certain compliance, you need to make sure that you are the one who is holding the key. So that should be your focus for this particular one. 7.10.2, recovery site strategy, and there's a new word, resource capacity agreement. It means all those different agreements are already there. Cold site, hot site, whatever you do is okay, but whenever you are setting up these agreements, you should be focused on resource capacity as well. So you should be bringing that under your scope of consideration whenever you are setting up this entire agreements with them. So that's a slightly new perspective which you need to bring up. Also talk about capabilities as well, right? Capacity as well. So that's the new topic. 7.12.6, in the DR plan, they say communications. In the entire DR plan, earlier also it was there, and we were already covering communication as well. But here they have specified stakeholder. So a company may have multiple stakeholders, maybe your clients, your partners, maybe your investors, all of that. You need to communicate them as well. In case of the level of disaster, not every disaster you need to go to them. Then test status. What is your test status right now? I conducted a DR thing. Then have I informed the respective people about the outcome of the test? That is one. And in certain cases, you also need to inform the regulatory authorities, because BCP is now no more a you can say luxury. It is one of the important requirement from a legal perspective as well. So there is a close legal angle as well when it comes to DR. Let's prepare to dive into the waters for domain number 8. This is where 1% of the entire domain 1 weightage has gone to domain number 1, right? So let's see what is in there for domain number 8. 8.1.1, there is a new topic apart from all different methodologies for SDLC. We need to also understand scaled agile framework. 8.2.9, we were already talking about SAST and DAST. SAST happens when the code is static, dynamic happens, DAST happens when the code is able to run in the runtime. Nothing new, right? They have also added interactive application security testing, IAST, which is nothing but based on, it's a combination of DAST and SAST. So now there are certain tools which can have both the capabilities also together. If you go through both the approaches together in one single tool or maybe in one single approach, you can further enhance security. So that's your IAST, a new topic. 8.4.4, managed services. Now this particular thing, it talks about a company giving you services. You are outsourcing your services to other company, and that is where we also need to include enterprise applications as well. That means if let's say you are using a particular application which is enterprise wide, let's say payroll system from a third party, and if they are managing these services, then you need to be careful in selecting the SLA, non-confidential agreement and these kind of stuff. That's the perspective here. Okay. 8.4.5 talks about cloud services, software as a service, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service. So you can see one topic from domain 8 has gone to domain number 3. Now this topic earlier we were covering in domain number 3, they have put here in domain number 8. Now here it is more from a software perspective, because end of the day you are going to cloud, all of these kind of thing, either to use a particular software or to host your software or application, right? So that is why they found this is a better place or fitment for this particular objective. Guys, so much to cover. Like, what do you guys feel? How do you think about these changes? Are they too much? Are they too much? Actually, no. You should not be too worried about these kind of stuff, right? And yeah, but definitely there is a requirement for you to summarize, go through this video twice and note down these major topics, and make sure that you, before you appear for the exam, you go through and have a special attention for these particular topics which I have told you, and then you will be all fine for the upcoming changes in the exam. Now if you ask me, changes are not big, however you can't ignore it. You can't ignore it because you have to go through that. Prepare specific notes for these ones as well, what things you should know. So always while making notes, also read the objectives as well. Many people who prepare for CISSP never go and see that. They will just get some content, they will just start skimming through. No, try to understand the objective first. What ISC Square is expecting you to know. That's very important. Okay, then removed objectives are not worthless. I have told you guys, even though the latest syllabus doesn't show up some of the topics, but if you ask me personally, I am still suscepting. How can Kerberos be removed? How can SAML be removed? It cannot be, right? So be little susceptible about this. Let's not take a chance until unless something new comes and this becomes the pattern, right? So we will still be careful about it. Appear for updated mock test. Many of the mock tests which are there on Udemy and everywhere, they are not updated. This is where I want to tell you about a particular Udemy course we have from Cybernous. We have hosted, I have hosted it. That is including 600 scenario based questions, and it is going to be 750 in next few days as well. This is completely based on the updated changes in the exam. You can get it at a very discounted price. Pratima man can put up that particular code with you, or you can reach out to us on the given contact. We can share the contact, that particular discount code with you, right? CISSP exam, many changes happening, and they are getting more and more smarter to cope up with the existing thing. But are you coping up? Are you thinking about moving away from the traditional approach and going to get a approach which is very exam focused? We call it as next gen CISSP preparation. It is one-stop shop for your entire CISSP exam preparation. When I say one stop, you don't need to refer any book, you don't need to refer any different source, everything in one single place you are going to get in the CISSP Success Toolkit. This particular toolkit plan is my last 7 years of intense experience into this. I have put in my long burning hours into this to get it for you. This particular plan can also help you in passing CISSP if you are just spending 1 to 2 hours every day. Believe me guys, it's very much possible. The three-headed approach has been tried and tested, as you know, and in this way you can achieve CISSP in the most time effective manner. Time is the key here guys. I have seen people thinking about CISSP for years together. They are not able to achieve it anytime. You have to treat it as a project. Until you treat CISSP as a project, it will not happen. And when you treat it as a project, you should have a strong plan also for that. So this plan is what we are going to talk about. Looks nice. There's a lot hidden into this particular plan. I hope even if you are preparing for yourself guys, you try to follow this framework. It's a very important framework. My 7 years of experience training for CISSP, this is the most important. If you really want to commit your CISSP and complete it within a very short time, and you have to structure the entire plan day wise for whatever time you are planning. If you are doing self-study, you have to make inbuilt, you have to prepare your notes, you have to prepare, you have to go through quiz as well, weekend exam practice as well. So all these kind of thing, if you want in one single place, that's your CISSP Success Toolkit. That is why CISSP Success Toolkit is such a unique plan, and you will never see that plan anywhere else. So a quick comparison why CISSP Success Toolkit is the way to go. It's a complete 100 days structured plan. There is a daily plan. You have to update the progress at the end of the day. You are closely being tracked. In CISSP, if you go and lose your focus, there has to be somebody who will be tracing you. So that happens here in CISSP Success Toolkit. Then LMS access. 1 year LMS access you are going to get complete. If somehow you couldn't do it in 3 months, at least for a year you have the complete access, right? Weekly live classes, that is where I told, in these classes we will not be discussing CISSP concept just like I tell you anything else and I go off. No, we are preparing for the real exam, so that when you go for the real CISSP exam, you feel like, man, it's nothing, it's just another day. That's the approach. Then inbuilt notes, no need to go through any heavyweight book. As I told you, my own book you are going to refer, that is more than sufficient for you to pass CISSP. You practice 3500 questions, objective wise concept, flashcard. It's a complete ecosystem. Whatever you need to know, whatever you need to have to pass your CISSP, everything is there. Only what I need from you is your dedication. Be dedicated, be committed to yourself, and I can go to any length to support you guys. I myself, as you know, have endorsed 113 people by now. These are some of the dedicated mentors who are willing to help you in the WhatsApp group. So you can reach out to them anytime. These are some of the success stories, guys. Recent success stories from Cybernous, CISSP Success Toolkit. You can get motivated through all of this, right? And so I hope this entire video has given you a lot of clarity on the kind of changes which are going to come in the CISSP exam, and lot much advice when it comes to the framework for actually preparing for the CISSP exam. You can have your own framework based on the guidelines which I have given, or else if you want to take direct help from me, feel free to reach out on the email and the number above. You can get enrolled to the CISSP Success Toolkit and we can make the journey together. Now, I keep coming with so much of valuable information related to CISSP. So do consider subscribing to this particular channel, like and share with your friends and family. It can help for those people who are preparing for CISSP or even for CSUM or CISA or serious kind of exam as well, right? And if you want a 90% discount on my Udemy course, feel free to visit the video description. There's a link there. You can click on this and purchase this particular course at a 90% huge discount. This is the only scenario based mock test which is available for CISSP. Make sure you go through that before you actually go for the real exam. You will feel so nice. You will feel so prepared after going through this. With that, sir, Jai Hind, and I will see you in another video.